Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Magdalene Interview Series. And I'm so excited to bring today Allie Davidson, who she and I have been connecting over the Magdalene over the last couple of months. And she has such a beautiful story and connection with Mary Magdalene. And it's been so exciting to get to have these conversations with individuals around their connection to the Magdalene and why Magdalene is important for us today. And all of this is, of course, in connection to the retreat to the south of France that I'm leading in September. And so, certainly, as you listen in with us, if you feel called to go deeper, we'd love for you to come and check out and connect with me more around the retreat. But welcome today, Allie. We are so excited to connect with you. Will you just introduce a little bit about who you are?
Well, I'm Allie Xenia Davidson. Xenia was my grandmother's name, and I've decided I'm adding that to my title and eventually just going to go to Allie Xenia because that really feels like home to me. And I have been a coach and a counselor for over 30 years. I've also done many things. I've owned four different businesses and I did in-home care. And I mean, I've done it all. I'm 69 years old and I'm essentially starting over again. And so I'm very excited about that. And I would say that the last 12 years has been the thing that has brought me to this final place where I know what I'm doing. I know what my mission is, what my calling is. I know why I'm here. And it's very strong. It's very big. Yeah.
Yum. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to go deeper with you about all of that. You had shared with me before that Magdalene has taught you about betrayal and true forgiveness. Can you take us into that and tell us a little bit about what that journey has looked like for you?
Well, she came into my life, I want to say about 2004. I don't really know, I don't remember how, but all of a sudden she was there. And I could feel her. And she was whispering things in my ear, but I really wasn't at that time in a place where I could attune to it. I was running two businesses and raising four teenagers. So I really wasn't sure why she kept showing up. And then one day, as I was walking through a bookstore, a book literally fell off the shelf and onto the floor in front of my feet. And I picked it up, and it was Kathleen McGowan's book, The Expected One. And when I started reading that book, as I was reading it, I'm like, this isn't a story. There's something real in this. And that's when I was really introduced to a different story than the one I was raised in. I never believed she was a prostitute. That to me was absolutely ridiculous, you know. Um, but I did believe, and I do believe, that she was herself the divine feminine, and that she and Jesus merged together to teach the way of love, which is all about the integration of the divine masculine and the divine feminine between us and within us. And when she showed up, at that time I was married and running these businesses and had no idea what was happening underneath. And a year before my life collapsed, I got this message that I was going to understand betrayal at the deepest level. I actually wrote it in my journal, like it was like a, what do you call it, automatic writing. And that through that I would understand forgiveness. And a year later I found out that my husband and my best friend were having an affair right under my nose for a year. And of course it devastated. I lost both of them at the same time. They didn't end up together, but that relationship, those relationships were over. And it was at that time that I started really hearing her. And what I learned was that she is the queen of forgiveness. That her demonstration of her ability to forgive the people who killed the man, not only that was her lover, but who was her twin flame, who was her masculine, she could forgive that. And she could forgive the guys who never showed up at the tomb, who came much later, having all these questions about her. That she was able to forgive all of that, helped me to be able to forgive. And so that's how she came into my life. And then in 2022, I went on a pilgrimage to France And I got to experience that, and I got to experience my time. And I've done past lives. I know I was in her life and Jesus's life. I was like a maybe in the family, but kind of off in the sidelines. But I loved them then too. And yeah, so I don't know if I've answered your question. I feel like I kind of went off a little bit,
Yeah.
but betrayal is it's the deepest and most common pain we will experience. And not only has studies shown that 95% of us will have some kind of betrayal, but most people only think of betrayal in terms of your partner and cheating. But
Mhm.
we're betrayed by our bodies when it all of a sudden can't do the things we want it to do. We can be betrayed by bosses who promise us things and then don't give it to us. We're betrayed by our economy, by our government. We're betrayed all the time. It's when an expected promise or agreement is broken. That's what a betrayal is. But it's the deepest pain because they had a choice. Whoever did this, they had a choice. And they chose to not respect or make you matter, right? And so what it really taught me in the end was how we betray ourselves as women. And that took me to looking back through history and thinking, wow, she was the first one to be really famous, right? And betrayed by the patriarchy, made into a whore, completely diminished her own lineage. She was a queen, She came from the house of Benjamin while Christ came from the house of David. And so they were both royalty. But all of that was taken away. And the patriarchy then over history, historically, have over time conditioned us to believe what they have said, that we are unworthy, that we can't have our own autonomy and our own authority. We can't be trusted by our word or because we're so emotional. And so we actually have an epigenetic internal misogynistic betrayal mechanism in place. And that's what led me through my own understanding that yeah, they betrayed me, but I had been betraying myself for years. And
Mm.
so when I finally realized, wow, it really all started with me. And in the end, they were my teachers and they had no choice but to do what they did so that I could come out of this and understand. And then as far as forgiveness went, everybody says, oh, forgive him, forgive him. You're like taking poison, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit, right? Forgiveness is forgiving to myself. Forgiving
Mm.
love. That's what it is. It's forgiving the lack of love. You are saying, I accept what has happened. You are saying, I accept that the person or the thing or the situation was in my best interest in the end, which I may not know because I may not know when the end is. Might take several years, but it is our own way of accepting and loving ourselves. And when we can do that, it's so magical because every time I forgave myself in a situation where someone betrayed me, when I finally saw that person, I had no internal anything. I was completely at peace, which meant I'd forgiven them too, because how could I not? And
Right.
that's what Mary Magdalene taught, was how to love and accept ourselves and live through that divine place of realizing that everything is me, everything is
Mm.
one, right? And so the more I can love myself, the more I can accept myself, flaws and all, mistakes and all,
Mhm.
the less the world can hurt me because it's my teacher.
Mm. A
And
lot
that,
of really powerful truths spoken
yeah,
there. A lot of wow. And I think the moment where you said that you heard from the Magdalene that you were going to learn about betrayal, I'm like, oh,
yeah. What I didn't realize when she said that, of course, I didn't know what was coming, but I didn't even see in my own life the betrayal that I had already experienced. I didn't see the betrayal that my father betrayed me when he molested me, that my mother betrayed me as a child and she abandoned me to my dad, when my teachers betrayed me by putting me in a corner. I didn't recognize all that as betrayal until the big one happened. And then I went, oh, wow. And then I could look back and go, what? Yeah. And how many times did I sacrifice myself? How many times did I abandon myself? How many times did I take care of everybody else's needs? Not even that they were first, but that they were the only things I took care of. I never took care of my needs.
Right.
Right. And
Wow.
so we end up being resentful and angry. And that's exactly what the patriarchy sees us as:
Yeah.
angry, bitter, nagging. Well, yeah, that's the negative aspect of the feminine. That's where
Right.
we go. Right.
Right. That other piece that you shared about internalized misogyny, I think that's a place where many people aren't willing to go and see. And I would be interested to hear your perspective on like, where do those systems come from? Where does it come from? Because it's like at that moment when you're in yourself, I feel like all of us, we start on this self-growth journey and it's really still internalized misogyny. It's like, how do I fix myself? Because I'm screwing up everything and I don't like how I feel. And then you reach this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't mine. I don't really feel these ways about myself.
Right.
Why am I doing this?
Oh my God. Yes. And we do it so easily. We're like born empaths. I had a situation recently where I wasn't well and a friend came to take care of me. She got up and walked across the room and she was limping. And I said, what happened? She said, sciatica. And then she left. And I got up and I walked across the room and my sciatica was hurting. And I had to tell myself, wait, that's not mine.
Right.
Clear my space, right? So how many times? I mean, my training is in NLP, neuro linguistic program, which is all about how we store information and how that information, as we have these experiences, start to make associations. And from that, we have belief systems. So you ask how, where? Well, it starts as a child, as we're watching how our mothers, are they in a place of resentment? We don't know necessarily that they're sacrificing or abandoning themselves or that they have low self-esteem. We don't know any of that stuff. When we just feel they're angry, they're sad, they're depressed, they're incapable of doing anything. I had a friend, that friend who cheated on me. She used to say, I can't do that. I can't do that. And one day in front of her 7-year-old, I said, I don't really care whether you can do it or not. But every time you say that in front of your 7-year-old, she is learning that she can't do it either. Is that what you want? Right. And so it really does come down to not wanting to fix ourselves, not looking for the broken parts of ourselves, not, I don't know how to say it, but to love those parts as they are, like you do your children. I mean,
Mhm.
we love them despite, right? No matter what they do, we love them. We never stop loving them. We don't. And so that's the piece we've never really learned because it was never taught to us. And then you go to the television shows we grew up with, and you go to the advertisements and all of it, all of it, all of it. And then you even look at the women out there who came. Um, oh God, I mean, I could go on forever. I don't know where you want to stop me because there's so many things after 69 years that I have come to understand
Yeah.
that I want so much to teach younger women because you probably look back at the women's movement, right, and go, wow, see, those women were like, they got us the right to vote. And then later they got us credit cards and they got us out in the world. And I think it was, again, a lie and a what's the word? When something is planned out, it was like a program that they laid out by the patriarchy for women. Because when we stepped out into the world to work, we didn't step out in our feminine. We
Right.
dropped our feminine at the door of our house and we stepped into our masculine power. And that's who we became out there. And yes, when you're in that masculine driven power, you can be very, very successful. But you can also physically be killing your body because it's unhealthy for us to be in that energy all the time.
Right.
And we are now leading with that masculine energy, which is the energy of competition, the energy of focus that and forget everybody else. And so we end up with people, I'm not going to name any names, but there are people out there in high positions who are running the show, but they're not doing it from the feminine. So they're really not doing us any good. They
Right.
haven't represented us, right? Which is why they're not ever voted into place. They're not going to vote into power because they're not representing you and me. Because you and me are working on integrating that.
Right. Right.
And
And
we were
uh,
still, sorry, we still went out on a job and we were still responsible for those children, still responsible for managing the home. We just piled on more and more and more on ourselves. And they thought that was great because they needed us to fill those roles. Now it backfired. And it backfired because what happened was, as we maintained that masculine energy, the feminine energy was all that and the guys got left with. So you have a bunch of men today who don't know who they are. They don't know how to step into their masculine. I mean, they need to work on that as much as we need to work on the feminine. It's why we have such a mess when it comes to relationships and work environments and everything else right now because everybody's angry.
right, absolutely. So much arriving out of survival. Yeah, and inviting a new conversation today where we have more opportunity to say, I don't think this is working anymore. I don't think this maybe was ever working, and getting to do that work and finding lots of forgiveness through the whole process. How do
Gosh.
you feel like these teachings, or maybe this Magdalene, interweaving shows up in your life, or the way you support others through their own healing journey?
Huh, well, I think when she initially came, she taught me about to notice what betrayal was, right? And to see betrayal for what it was and how devastating it was, and a way through that, which was to self-loyalty. That's the way through. And it takes us to a place of sovereignty, of autonomy, of standing in our own body, of knowing our own thought, knowing who we are. And that's what I teach. And then the forgiveness part, which is that gentle aspect of forgiving ourselves first. And as we do that and we shed that, we don't, what I have found is I don't have that little voice in my head anymore. That little voice that's always back there going, why'd you say that? Why'd you do that? Oh, you really should do this. You should do that. That misogynistic little voice that got implanted in me, she doesn't talk to me anymore. She really
Mm,
doesn't. And so I I feel like that's what she's about, and the story of the masculine and the feminine, which is really, really important because in order for the we don't want the patriarchy to collapse and have a matriarchy that just took its place from the same energy, right? That's not
right.
what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do here is to recognize that both in the male and the feminine energy, there's the positive side and there's the negative side,
Mhm.
and we can flip in and out of all of it. And that what Mary Magdalene and Jesus, their actual relationship, and this is where I go to teach it because their relationship was all about that. It was all about the eros gamos, the wedding of the masculine and the feminine coming together, integrated in a healthy way, honoring each side, each part, each iteration, whatever
Mhm.
that comes out to be, and so yeah, that's kind of, but not in this way of like the woo woo divine feminine. I like, oh, that shit gets me. I'm sorry. It just gets me because it isn't real. Look, we are human beings. We are living a life. We have insurance to pay. We have bills to pay. We have people to take care of. That's the real of life.
Yeah.
It's the integration of the belief. It's the integration of the values that we bring into ourselves that make us fully human and fully divine, which is what they taught us. They
Mhm.
didn't walk around going, hey, let's do incense, let's do bells. They didn't do that. They just walked around in their plain clothes saying, hey, we're here to tell you about the way of love. We're here to tell you that you and I are one, that whatever you see out here is really a manifestation of everything you think,
Mhm.
right? And that it is beautiful. And
Mm.
when people see my life, and my life story is pretty, a lot, when they hear my story, the things they say to me is, "Oh, you're so strong. You're so resilient. Wow, how do you do that?" And I think, I don't feel like it's my strength. I don't feel like I'm resilient. I'm just accepting of whatever shows up. And the minute I accept it and recognize it as not as an outcome, but as part of my journey, things just they just work out. They always work out. I've been living for 2 years in a house I own with essentially no income. Tell me how that happens. Magic, miraculously, but because I expect it to. I
Love
expect.
that. Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. And I love how you're talking about bringing into the tangible world. I love bringing these conversations into kind of, expanding the conversation, recognizing how Magdalene represents so many different teachings and traditions and intuitive paths. And something that I've been, to kind of shift the conversation a little bit and deeper reflection around is how we stay in respectful relationship with those traditions and histories that inform our spiritual work. And so I'm curious what it means to you, even if it's something you're still exploring, like how do we stay in respectful relationship to all of the different traditions and teachings and intuitive paths as we come awake to the reality of who we are.
Hmm. I am an all the time student. Right now, I am studying the Rosicrucians. Not because I want to become a Rosicrucian. I don't even know what it is yet. I just want to understand. And I have always come from this perspective of wanting to understand, which is why I made a good counselor, right? I mean, so when it came to, I mean, I I grew up in a Greek Orthodox church. It is the original church before the Council of Nicaea, when everything was thrown out and made even more patriarchal. So it is less patriarchal than the Catholic Church, just to say. Still, though, it's beautiful in its rituals. It's beautiful in its stories. But every religion believes that they are the one. And that is completely the opposite of what Mary Magdalene and Jesus were teaching. So within their own religion, which is why the Jews, who they were Jews and they were royalty Jews, were wanted them destroyed because they were saying that your power is within you, that God's power is within you. And that is just not supposed to be said that way. So as a very young child, though, I remember waking up, and the only reason I know I was this young was because my sister was in the crib next to me and she was a year old. So that would have made me about 3 years old. And I can remember waiting for everybody to go to sleep and waking up to talk to God. And he talked to me. And when things were happening to me in that young time of my life, I would go out to the willow tree and I would sit under this little baby willow tree and it would hang over and I'd feel so safe and secure and I would talk to God. So I've always felt like I had this personal relationship with God. And yes, I see it as the universe. I see it as source. I see it as this energy, right? I don't see it as this guy on a throne. I never did. But God is the word that I grew up with, and so God is the word that I use. And I have had so many miraculous things happen in my life, one after the other, that I expect them. And and so I keep coming back to Mary Magdalene and Jesus because that's really what they were saying, right? That we keep looking out here instead of looking in here. And and the thing that I don't like about what I have seen around the Magdalene and the whole goddess and temple and all this stuff, like there's mysticism. There is these truths that we have yet to understand. But when we think this is the only way, that's when it becomes a problem. When you start seeing all these women wearing robes and saying, "Well, the Magdalene," you know, that to me is like you're making it a persona instead of embodying the message, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. I
And
love that.
I think that's the thing that I would want people to know because we are fully human. We are in this life, you know. This is the playground that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, fully human and fully divine, and that element of yeah, using any spiritual tradition to kind of bypass our reality of being so human.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't.
And godly at the same time because every one of them still is putting it out there. I mean, even a lot of people who follow the Magdalene or the priestesshood, it's still kind of putting it out there. And there's this hierarchy also, the elevation, like, well, I know more, so I'm higher.
Mhm.
And that all goes against what Jesus and Mary Magdalene taught.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I love that, and I think too, so much of these teachings and things, like I know for me, I've been able to recognize them more because there's so many lineages who have carried these traditions and held on to them so that I could learn, or even hear it in myself and then recognize it in a lineage or a tradition, that like there's a better way of relating to ourselves, and I just feel so much gratitude towards those traditions.
Well, and they do inform us. They did have truths that got buried that are now coming forward.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree with you. And at the same time, I keep coming back to I mean, look, I have cards behind me. You can see I pull cards. I have a pendulum. I have a smudge stick. I do all that stuff. But it's between me and God when I do it. And I don't talk about doing it. I just do it. That's my way.
Mhm.
Do I meditate for an hour every day? No. Some people meditate a whole day and they need that. You know, I have a friend who's a psychic, and when she talks to people, these voices talk to her. There's things that go on outside, right? I literally just go, "What do you think?" And I get the answer like that. And that's not because I am special. It's not because I'm more psychic. Not because it's not. It's just I like simplicity. I don't think you need all the rigmarole to do what we want to do. I think that we are open more to learning and understanding when we don't put a lot of um, have tos in the way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm on the same exact journey. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, I love this conversation so much, Ali. I'd love to ask kind of like where people can connect with you and kind of what
Mm.
you're now developing, and what you're inviting people into.
Okay, thank you for that. So it's been a long road, really. It's been a long road to loyalty. Um, and I actually realized that I had something that was valuable when I said to another teacher, well, I teach self-loyalty. And she said, oh, yeah, self-love is so important. And I was like, wait, no, 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 no. Self-love is not the same as self-loyalty. And then I realized self-care is not the same as self-love. And so I came up with a framework that I really, it was like, oh, yeah, this is the way I actually got here. And so now I'm going to be teaching that. And it's still in the baby stages of development. Eventually, I'm going to have a program and thing. But right now, people can get a hold of me through my Substack or through my Facebook. Um, I go on Substack and I write articles and just leave little things there. But my plan is to offer a monthly group call for $11 a month where you can come and ask me any question you want. And we can have this conversation. If it takes 4 hours, it takes 4 hours. I don't care. So what I want to do is make things really affordable to people because I feel like people are really hurting financially right now. And yeah, and so I also am starting a church. Um, I am a minister now, so my son and I are building a church, and I'll have more about that later. I don't have too much about that right now, but it's a church only because it's called Synthesis Church, and it is really a place where people from all cultures, all religions, all continents, all races, all sexual gender, everything, come as they are to be synthesized into unity, right? Because that's
Mm.
what I believe is that we have to come together and we help community by community by community.
Oh,
So, yeah.
beautiful. Where can people connect with you?
So Substack, if you go to Allie Davidson, and there's a bunch of numbers, but I don't think there's that many. If you go to Allie, I don't know. I could, is there a way for me to put it up here somehow? I don't know how to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we can put it in the comments.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So
Alan,
Substack. Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there any final thing that you want to share? Like perhaps if you felt Magdalene, we're speaking directly to women today about betrayal and forgiveness. What do you think she would say?
Oh, she's gonna make me cry. She would say, "You are so loved, so very much loved. You are a queen in your own world. There's nothing you need to prove. There's nothing you need to do. You just need to be your own person. Stand in your royalties, stand in your power." It's very gentle, it's very soft, it's very loving, it's very accepting. That's what she would say.
Mm, thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you again so much, Allie. And thanks to those of you who have watched. Feel free to say hi in the comments, or if you have questions or things you want to say about our discussion, we'd love to hear from you in the comments and we'll come back and check those. This has been streamed across Facebook and LinkedIn, and we'll be on Allie's page here pretty quick too as well.
Can I just add one more thing?
Absolutely.
Go, if you can go on this trip, people, go on this trip. Seriously, things deepened in me in such a profound way just being in that area. It is absolutely magical. Energetically, it'll change you. And being able to understand the story, not only of the Magdalene, but also of the Cathars and the sacrifices they made to live the life that Mary Magdalene and Jesus taught. I love that you're doing this. And if I could, I would be going back with you. And I think that anybody who can afford to go, this is your opportunity. Do it. And what a beautiful leader you have to take you.
Thank you so much, Allie. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we've got our link in the description. So feel free to go in and check that out and come on to a conversation with me. Allie, thank you for shining your light. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the ministry that you are working in your community and in your own spheres. It's beautiful. And thanks again for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time for another episode of the Magdalene Interview Series.
Bye.